Hello and welcome to South First. I am Chetna Belgare with three special guests from Kinder Hospitals in Bengaluru. Dr. Geeta Komar, a renowned obstetrician and gynecologist specializing in women's health, high-risk pregnancies and reproductive care. Dr. Sampath Kumar Shettigar, a leading neonatologist and pediatrician. Dr. Sanjana Premlal, a seasoned consultant nutritionist, all from Kinder Hospitals. We welcome you all, Doctor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Doctor, I'll just start with Dr. Geeta Komar first. What are some gynecological issues which you see in women in their 20s, 30s, and 40s at kinder?
Yes. So coming to the common gynecological problems, see the problems do remain. There are some problems that remain similar across the age group, be it within their 20s or 30s or 40s. Now, when it comes to the 20s, most common that we see is problems with their menstrual cycles. They come with irregular cycles. We know that the PCOS incidence has increased drastically over the last couple of years, coupled with the work stress and the inactivity that we see generally. So we see them in the 20s most commonly with the menstrual problems of irregular cycles, pain during the menstruation, various vaginal infections, vaginitis, white discharge, or the PID. As they move on to their 30s, because it is the time when the couples have started planning the pregnancies. So the most common thing we see them coming in is with the issues of infertility. And then, of course, there is pregnancy. There are various issues to be dealt with in pregnancy, both physically and mentally, and how to cope with the childbirth and the aftermath. And as we move on to the 40s, in addition to these gynec issues, we also have women who come with various premenopausal problems. It is the time when they're moving towards the menopause, and a couple of years before the menopause is what we call premenopause. They can experience various kind of problems. It could be emotional liability. It could be physical problems like hot flushes, weight gain, and various other issues.
Okay. Like in any other stream of medicine, Dr. Geeta, I'm sure, even in pregnancy, it is that it's mostly later once the problem starts that many of them start realizing that they need to go to the doctor. What percentage of women actually come to the hospital for checkup to ensure a healthy pregnancy? One. And also, how important does this become?
Yeah. So it's very heartening that, the healthcare, especially the pregnancy care, both in a private, that is in a well-to-do setup, and as well as in the rural, has moved a long way now. So we see that most pregnant women, no matter where they are in our country at this point, they do consult a doctor at whatever level they can for their healthcare. In the rural area, it is covered by the Anganwadi, the Ayas that are there. And here we see the women coming to the hospital, consulting the doctors. It's the good thing is, most women are very aware about the various pregnancy issues they face and what they can do about it. So I think most women now are covered under the healthcare programs.
Okay. So do they come to the hospital for a better pregnancy, for a healthy pregnancy? Do they come with that intention alone?
Yes, they do come with that intention alone. And we're also seeing an increasing number of young couples coming to us even before they start planning. So that's a very good, momentum that we see in the young couples now. Before it wasn't so, but now they're very aware. They're very aware of what blood tests they should be doing, what care they should be taking before the pregnancy. So that translates to them being very much aware during the pregnancy, both in terms of what they must eat, what are the exercises they should do, and how they should prepare for the childbirth.
Okay, that's heartening to know. Dr. Sampath Kumar, my question is to you next. The most common problems which we see in pregnancy is preterm deliveries. What are some of the common causes for preterm delivery?
So premature babies or premature deliveries are deliveries that occur before the mummy has reached 37 weeks of gestational age. Causes are mostly obstetric. And there are a few risk factors included in the causes also. For example, if someone's had a premature delivery earlier, that would predispose them to have another or at a higher risk for premature delivery again. That's one. Another is if it's a twin or if it's a multiple gestation, if there's twins, triplets, quadruplets, multiple gestations, that easily predisposes them to have to most probably deliver before time. Yeah, that is a premature delivery. And then there are issues. For example, if mummy is having a preeclampsia, if it's a mummy has malnutrition, these are all few causes of prematurity.
Okay. So how important is it for maternity hospitals to have a good NICU? And what are some of the facilities that are like a must in these maternity hospitals?
Yeah. So the few basic facilities that should be available in the NICU would be available literally everywhere, whether it's urban, rural. For example, oxygen supply, vacuum supply, etc. But then what makes an NICU different from others, what makes an NICU capable to handle a premature baby is the skill set, first of all, where there is manpower involved, where there are neonatologists. So everybody has done their MD pediatrics, but then those who specialize in neonatology, that's another few years of training that we need. And then we call ourselves neonatologists, and then we are specialized to take care of premature babies. Then we need the senior doctors, we need junior doctors, and nothing works in the NICU without the nurses. That's another. Coming to the infrastructure bit, there are very expensive equipment that we use. For example, the incubators, the ventilators. That's why until maybe about a decade ago, it was only seen in urban setups or in the government hospitals, but in urban areas where they call them district areas, etc. Since the past decade, I've seen lots of improvement, especially from the infrastructure point of view in public service. But there is a bit of catching up to do from the skill set point of view, manpower point of view in the public sector. In
Okay.
the public sector, yeah.
Okay. Dr. Sanjana, my question is to you. Being a nutritionist, I'm sure you play a very, very important role across all of these, groups that we are discussing today. So, obesity has become a major problem in population across ages and across gender as well, especially when we look at women. So, how do you see this obesity as a problem impacting reproductive age, one, and also in children?
Yeah, actually, obesity is a major cause when you are working in a maternity sector. This have major impact on the hormones and which leads to infertility. And there are other things which arise with this, like insulin resistance and all, which can lead to all these kind of infertility issues and gestational diabetes. And the PCOD is one of the most cause of this causing this obesities. And when it comes to the children, if suppose a mother is diabetic previously before the pregnancy during the pregnancy, there's one of the leading cause. And the feeding of the babies, which they're the earlier age itself, when they start weaning, they might start with the processed food, like which is high in sugars, which these are the reason which leads to obesity in children. And for the woman, it's mostly due to the lifestyle stress. No one is like doing any kind of exercises. And our diet is mostly based on carbs, and which is very less in protein, and like the micronutrient availability is very less. And we are lacking on many of the sufficient, like important nutrients. These are the main cause both for the mother and child, which lead to the obesity.
Okay. Thank you for that. Dr. Geeta, I want to know, like we discussed on how obesity actually can be one of the high risk factor for a pregnancy, right? So what are some of the other risk factors for pregnancy, one, and also what special care does kinder hospitals offer for these cases?
Yes. So there are various risk factors in their medical history, which makes this particular pregnancy as a high risk. If you look back at the previous history, if they have, as Dr. Sampath mentioned, if they have had babies which were born premature in the previous pregnancy, if they had a hypertension or diabetes in their previous pregnancy, it puts them at a risk of these conditions to be repeated again in this particular one. If they've had a cesarean section in the previous pregnancy, they are at a high risk of going into a repeat C-section during this pregnancy too. So, and then if they had any complications like heavy bleeding in their pregnancy, or if they had a low-lying placenta called as a placenta previa in the previous pregnancies, or if we go back to the previous history, if both the mother and father were born premature, that also puts the mothers at a risk of delivering prematurely in their pregnancy. And of course, as Dr. Sanjana just spoke about, malnutrition or obesity will also put the mother at various complications during pregnancy. Now, coming to kinder, how are we geared up? We are a fully mother and child hospital, and we are completely geared up towards caring the mother for both the normal as well as mothers who present to us with various medical complications. We have a very experienced team of gynecologists, and like Dr. Sampath said, a very experienced neonatologist. along with the level 3 NICU care that takes care of the premature babies or the babies coming with various other complications. We also have an in-house physician and a diabetologist who helps us deal with the women with these pregnancy complications like diabetes and hypertension. A very good team of dietitian with Dr. Sanjana. We have an in-house lactation consultant. Adding to that, our USP is also a very robust Ayurvedic department. They help us in the holistic care of the pregnant woman. We have got various programs, both while during pregnancy as well as after the birth of the baby, to help them in, various massages. They've got an entire program which is built for the mothers. And we're also among the very few centers in Bangalore. We have an in-house blood storage unit now that helps us to deal with any emergency during delivery immediately.
Okay.
So this is how we are, geared up very well to deal with the women with various complications.
That's nice. Dr. Sampath, the youngest preterm that is survived in your care. I mean, it's always heartening to see sometimes news about, maybe 500 grams and, children. I've seen infants surviving of that very early, as early as say 23 weeks also. But what was your youngest case, if you could just tell us about it?
The youngest case I have looked after was 480 grams. That was almost about 6-7 years ago. It was difficult. What we're really proud of is we made the baby survive, but baby was intact. Intact meaning intact survival. Meaning nowadays with lots and lots of IVF going on, lots and lots of increased cases or incidents of premature deliveries. Getting baby to survive is not the thing. The thing is we need to make sure baby survives with intact brain, without much bleeding in the brain, making sure baby has the future of the baby, the development of baby is intact. So those small little things that we do during treatment, being very firm, being very maybe aggressive in our treatment, but being gentle while handling baby. So all those things make the difference. And that is what we're proud of, that child is now going to school, walking, running, jumping, all sorts of things. And that's what we're proud of.
Okay. So is there any mark, like, suppose the child delivered within 24 to 28 weeks can survive better, or, is there anything of that sort which usually happens in preterm cases?
So there's no fixed thing as such like that in literature or in print. But then in general, everyone knows the younger the baby, the lesser the gestation, the higher chances or the higher risk of having issues. For example, a baby who's delivered at 36 plus 6 weeks of gestation is also premature. And then there's the baby who's born, as you said, 500 grams at 24 weeks. That baby is also premature. But then we all know that baby who's born at 36 plus 6 might face a few little minor issues, but the baby is going to be okay. It's the 24-weeker where we need to put in all of our experience and skill maybe. And that is the baby who needs the most care.
Okay. Dr. Sanjana, what are, when you look at, when we say first foods, the first thing that parents do is go to packaged food like Cerelac or any other brand, whatever. So what is your opinion on this? I mean, is that what it is? Because in the age-old traditions, they would go for ragi seri and things like that. But what is your, as a doctor who's practicing nutrition, what do you suggest?
Actually, if you're going to a packaged food, there might not be a coming back because these foods have higher level of sugar. Once baby get used to this taste, then coming back to our traditional food, it might be a little bit difficult. And all our traditional food, for example, ragi, which is rich in iron, which is very essential for the babies. So what I try to realize the parents, it might be a little bit hard to prepare all these things in home, getting this organic food products, but that is always better to the baby. As I said earlier, these are one of the main causes which can cause this obesity for the babies. So we need to include a various kind of foods, in all different textures, and also the baby will not be a picky eater in future. We need to consider all these things to ensure a good future for the baby. And it always starts from the age of 6 months. How early it starts, then it will become a habit for the baby. Later, maybe after 1 or 2 years, you want to serve baby all with this natural, organic, homemade food, then at that time, it might not be possible. So the habits start at the time of weaning itself.
Okay. Dr. Geeta, how much of a role does breastfeeding actually play? I would like to, I mean, if Dr. Sampath can answer this along with Dr. Geeta, for, from a pediatrician perspective also, and from Dr. Geeta, if you could tell us what is the, are women actually now taking to breastfeeding, exclusive breastfeeding? Is that what you promote, and is that what you suggest, or is it okay? Because there is a lot of things which is involved when it comes to breastfeeding. Sometimes, there it could be a premature baby, the suckling reflex may not be there, and then there might be a parent who's going through the guilt of not being able to feed the baby. So what is the scenario like, and what are your suggestions? Because I've heard a lot of doctors saying, no, you have to enforce breastfeeding. But then what about people who can't do it? So what are your suggestions on that?
Yeah. I think, I'll answer it partly and then Dr.
Yes.
Sampath will take. So
Yeah.
yes, as obstetricians, we try and encourage the mothers to start breastfeeding as early as possible. Actually, the guidelines say within an hour of the birth, whether it's a normal delivery or a C-section, we should start the breastfeeding. So once if the mother has had a C-section, then she's in the recovery area. Our nurses will go and help her to start the breastfeeding. In the labor room also, the nurses are geared up to help them starting off with the breastfeed. So we do encourage. The first thing that we encourage is to try and do the breastfeeding and start it off as early as possible. Now, as you said, it is true. A lot of mothers are in a lot of pain. They're in a lot of discomfort, and they're not, so what shall we say, educated enough towards the breastfeeding, the importance. And the pain conditions also prevent them from trying to do a exclusive breastfeeding. So, but as far as possible, we encourage them because it's very important, both from the mother and the child point of view. One thing is that, of course, it's very good for the baby. There is no doubt about that. The best nutrition that the baby can get is the mother's milk. Secondly, it helps to promote the bonding between the mother and the child, which is a very, very important aspect. And I think the importance, I'll just let Dr. Sampath take over for the rest of the answer.
Yes. Dr. Sampath.
Yeah, so thank you. From the pediatric point of view, the second a baby is born, we try to get baby latched onto mommy. So in the orders that we write after every delivery, we say try to feed baby within 1 hour, if possible, because that's the best thing to do. And then onwards, when we follow up with the baby until the baby gets discharged along with mommy by second or third day, every time we step into the room, we try to promote only breastfeeding. We try to promote only breastfeeding. So any baby, whether born 2 kg or 4 kilos, every baby at whatever gestation is going to have a little bit of a tough time the first 2-3 days getting used to breastfeeding. So we need to reassure the parents at that point, saying, just keep going at it. The first few days, any mummy also will hardly get maybe few drops of milk, or maybe 1 ml of milk, and they'll be that is a bit demoralizing for them, until someone steps in and says, every human being the first day is going to only make this much. Don't worry, we're here to support you. We also have Shaista, who is our lactation consultant, who goes into literally every room, every baby who's delivered, speaks to mommy, helps with the feeding, like practically actually stands there and helps them feed. So all of this helps us ensure that we are trying our best to get every baby to breastfeed. However, in a small percentage of people, for whatever reason, if it doesn't work out, it is not right for us to shame mummy. Yeah, that's one thing. Maybe us, or maybe it's their relatives at home, or from whatever. It's as bad as, if we're being woke, it's as bad as fat shaming, maybe. Yeah, so we shouldn't be doing that. That's one thing. And sometimes there are conditions where baby is just not getting enough. Baby is in fact losing so much weight that even by maybe sometimes second day of life, baby has lost more than 10% of the whole body weight. And that is what we call dehydration. And that is where we step in and say, we'll give mummy some supplements. We've got some medications also if mummy needs to increase her flow. But then that is when baby shouldn't be let to get dehydrated even further. So formula milk is not banned for a reason, because sometimes in certain situations it is, I can use the word, life-saving.
Okay. Doctor, since we have just last 7 minutes left, I would want to take one question to each of you on Dr. Geeta. If you could give us some tips on women who are trying to go the family way. What are some tips that you think you can give them? Just quick tips.
You mean trying to become pregnant, or who are
yes.
pregnant?
Want to get pregnant, who are going the family way, who are trying to get pregnant.
Yes. So, as I said, a lot of couples do come, and it's very important now for a couple. See, most people now plan a pregnancy, at least the people whom we see in our setup. So once you start, because of the various the party ways, the drinking, smoking, all that we see is very common. Now, it's very important for the mother to remember, for the woman to remember, once you start planning the pregnancy, first thing is to lead a healthy and a holistic lifestyle. They have to adopt. The smoking and the drinking has to completely stop, no any recreational drugs. It's very important to be stress free, because the stress, we also know, is it can interfere with the ovulation, with the ability to conceive, or to plan around the time when they're supposed to plan in the month, so they get the performance anxiety. So it's very important that they're stress free, have a regular exercise, a healthy diet, and of course, come to the hospital, get a workup done. We have various tests that we do in a mother who's trying to conceive, in a woman who's trying to conceive, because we are looking for various infections or any deficiencies that can be corrected before they become pregnant. And the one important thing they should start taking is the folic acid. Now, folic acid is a vitamin that is known to prevent certain disorders in the baby, especially the neural disorders. It's a proven benefit. It's a proven benefit. So, those women who are trying to become pregnant should start taking folic acid at least 2 to 3 months before they plan to become pregnant.
Okay. Thank you very much. Dr. Sanjana, I am coming to you next. What are some of the foods that new mothers must eat?
So the new mother should have a very good protein-rich diet, which we counsel here that during the time of their postpartum counseling, because in some culture they will not give that pulses and lentils because it might cause some gas and all, but it is something which new mothers need. And along with that, some of the micronutrients and healthy fats, which is also like flax seeds, walnut, which will help them to have like all these micronutrients, which is helpful for the baby's brain development. So these two things we specify, and water intake, which is very important for the breast milk production. So that also in some culture, there are some mothers which will not give water to their daughters because it might cause some issues. So we counsel on those three things mainly.
Okay. Thank you, Doctor. Dr. Sampath, coming to you. What are some do's and don'ts for parents of toddlers?
Toddlers, you mean not newborns or
No,
infants?
toddlers.
Okay. So
You can even
that's
talk
like I can
about
write.
don'ts maybe for toddlers.
Yes, I think we'll speak only about don'ts, and there's a
Yes,
big,
lot
big
of
list
don'ts.
of
Yes,
don'ts there. I'm
correct.
just going to maybe touch upon the most common issues or complaints that parents come to me with in the OPD. The first thing is my baby's not eating, because which baby doesn't eat well? Well, I mean, every doesn't not eat well. Every parent comes in and says my baby's not eating, my baby's not eating. But the truth is, when baby's hungry, baby is going to eat. When your toddler is hungry, the child is going to eat. The problem is we give in to when baby demands, mommy or daddy, please give me that one small bit of biscuit and then I'll have my lunch. And that is when we need to, it's not good. Maybe from the toddler point of view, it's not good to keep timings and say, I'm going to give you lunch at 12. I think it's a good idea to keep a range, maybe around 11:30 to 1. Whenever this guy gets up and asks for food, I'm going to give him his lunch. And then don't give that one piece of biscuit. Give him the whole pack, or maybe 3 or 4 pieces of it. But then tell him that you or her that you need to finish your lunch and then you're going to get it. The same with chocolates. We keep scaring them, saying it'll cause worms, it'll cause sickness, it'll cause fever, but it actually doesn't cause anything other than caries. So that's why brushing twice a day is really that important. So from the junk food point of view, we're living in the modern world. We're all living, most of us, I mean, all of us on this call especially, are living in cities. It is kind of impossible to avoid junk food. Maybe we can use that to our advantage, making sure they have all their good food, and then they'll go out with their friends, and we have no control over how many French fries they're having, especially in elder kids. So balancing it, trying to avoid junk food as much as we can. If it's coming to soft drinks, definitely no. Coming to fruit juices, maybe not the packaged ones with however organic or however much they say it's 100% fruit juice. It's definitely not going to be 100%. They have to put in some preservatives, otherwise it's not going to last for the expiry period that they claim on their packaging. So trying to avoid outside food and junk food. That was just about the food bit. Yeah.
What
Other
about the
than that,
devices, Doctor?
toddlers. Which one?
The
Devices.
devices.
Screen time.
Screen time.
So when it comes to toddlers from the age group of 2 to 5, apparently we can give them 1 to 1.5 hours of screen time. We should try to limit that to them to speaking with their grandparents or other relatives, maybe. But what we shouldn't be doing, and what most people do, is when baby is fussy and not eating, they turn the TV on. And then baby just goes into a state of hypnosis watching the TV, and they pump in all the food. And that is one habit we shouldn't be instilling in them. We should try to avoid that.
Thank you very much, all of you, for joining in for this interview. That is all we have for today. Thank you.